So then in verse 27, Martha says, "Yea, Lord, I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, which should come into the world." So even though Martha had doubts because Jesus allowed her brother to die, she still chooses to believe regardless of how she feels, right? And then in verse 28, and when she had so said, she went her way and called Mary her sister secretly, saying, The Master is come and calleth for thee. Martha goes to her sister Mary and says, Come see Jesus, right? And then in verse 29, as soon as she heard that, she rose quickly and came unto him. Now Jesus was not yet come into the town, but was in that place where Martha met him. So Jesus is just outside the town. Martha goes to tell Mary that Jesus comes, and she immediately goes to Jesus and finds him. And then in verse 31, the Jews then, which were with her in the house and comforted her, when they saw Mary, that she rose up hastily and went out, followed her, saying, She goeth unto the grave to weep there. It seems orchestrated to the point where the Jews were comforting them, not only so that they'd feel better about their dead brother, but so that these people could see Jesus raise Lazarus from the dead. And so because Martha told Mary secretly, they didn't know where she was going, but they assumed she was going to the grave, and so they followed her. So then in verse 32, then when Mary was come where Jesus was, and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been there, my brother had not died. And so we see very clearly here, Mary is hurting, right? She's very sad that her brother died. Then in verse 33, when Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping, which came with her, he was groaned in the spirit and was troubled. And so even though Jesus knew what he was going to do, he still felt her hurt in that moment, and he met her where she was, right? And he felt that hurt because he loved Lazarus, he loved Mary, and he loved Martha, right? So then in verse 34, Jesus says, Where have ye laid him? They said unto him, Lord, come and see. So right after Jesus sees where they laid Lazarus, Jesus immediately wept in verse 35. And then in verse 36, then said the Jews, Behold how he loved him. And so everyone knows that Jesus loves Lazarus here. It's not being questioned. Then in verse 37, and some of them said, Could not this man which opened the eyes of the blind have caused that even this man should not have died? And so even some of them are questioning, like, well, he opened the eyes of the man who was born blind, so how can he not have prevented Lazarus from dying? But they don't know Jesus' ultimate plan here, right?